Find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Step into the shadows with Haunted Moonlight, your ultimate guide to all things spooky and supernatural. From spine-chilling horror movies and books to the world's most haunted places, cryptids, UFOs, and so much more, we explore it all. Join us each week for thrilling tales and eerie adventures. Subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and follow us on Instagram to stay updated on our latest episodes. Let Haunted Moonlight be your beacon in the dark, illuminating the mysteries that lurk just beyond the edge of every day.
This is Paige, the co-host of Giggly Squad. I use Uber Eats for everything, and I feel like people forget that you can truly order anything, especially living in New York City. It's why I love it. You can get Chinese food at any time of night, but it's not just for food. I order from CVS all the time. I'm always ordering from the grocery store. If a friend stops over, I have to order champagne. I also have this thing that whenever I travel, if I'm ever in a hotel room, I never feel like I'm missing something because I'll just Uber Eats it. The amount of times I've had to Uber Eats hair items like hairspray, deodorant, you name it, I've ordered it on Uber Eats. You can get grocery, alcohol, everyday essentials in addition to restaurants and food you love. So in other words, get almost anything with Uber Eats. Order now. For alcohol, you must be legal drinking age. Please enjoy responsibly. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
I can't tell you how often I hear, oh, I'm a little OCD. I like things neat. That's not OCD. I'm Howie Mandel, and I know this because I have OCD. Actual OCD causes relentless, unwanted thoughts. What if I did something terrible and forgot? What if I'm a bad person? Why am I thinking this terrible thing? It makes you question absolutely everything, and you'll do anything to feel better. OCD is debilitating, but it's also highly treatable with the right kind of therapy. Regular talk therapy doesn't cut it. OCD needs specialized therapy. That's why I want to tell you about NoCD. NoCD is the world's largest virtual therapy provider for OCD. Their licensed therapists provide specialized therapy virtually, and it's covered by insurance for over 155 million Americans. If you think you might be struggling with OCD, visit nocd.com to schedule a free 15-minute call and learn more. That's nocd.com.
I don't know about you, but the number one thing I look forward to when I return from traveling is a good night's sleep in my own bed. That has never been more true than it is now that I have a Sleep Number smart bed. I get so sore after traveling on planes, but after literally one night in my Sleep Number smart bed, my body feels restored, rested, and relaxed. The fact that my bed actually listens to my body and adjusts to my needs to keep me sleeping soundly all the way through the night is worth it alone. Not to mention, my husband and I never need to argue over firmness because we can each dial in our own Sleep Number setting. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? So you can choose your ideal comfort on either side. And now, for a limited time, Sleep Number smart beds start at $849. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. See store or sleepnumber.com for details.
Here we are now. All the lads together.
Excuse me?
I mean, lads in a gender-neutral term.
Yeah.
You know, as
I was
term
just,
of endearment.
it's so funny because I feel like you and I have talked about this, but now I don't remember. I always think of girl and dude are both gender-neutral in my head.
I like that.
Like, if I'm like, girl, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say
it's gender-neutral.
Dude in a gender-neutral way, and we say lads in a gender-neutral way in Ireland. It's like, lads.
Yeah.
You know?
A podcast that I listened to, then they were talking about it. They're like, no, dude is gender-neutral in my head. And they said, even girl is gender-neutral in my head. And I was like, perfect, because it is in my head, too.
Yes. So for everybody listening, the dudes, the girls, the gays, and the theys, welcome to Rowan and Pine.
Welcome.
This is episode, what episode is this?
43. Wait, do we count the... No, we don't count the shorts.
43.
Okay.
Welcome to episode 43 of Rowan and Pine.
We didn't just look that up.
Yeah, we definitely didn't. You're in season 3. Lucky you. Did you binge the other seasons? Tell us. Write to us in a letter. Emily's address is...
Is this your... Oh, yeah, okay. I would love... If you knew my address off the top of your head, that would be impressive.
Absolutely not. But I do have your address. Why am I saying address the way you do? I say address. I do have your address saved under your phone contact on my phone because I kept like having to go back in our chats to look it up when I was sending you presents. So
I have like a note in my phone that has your address in it. I was like, how do I say address?
Now we're just second guessing ourselves.
Am I American or Irish?
Hey, we would take you in a heartbeat.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you're spiritually Irish.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. She's spiritually Irish because she's been slowly radicalized against the British establishment.
Yeah.
The more she learns.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm spiritually Irish. I am Mexican by marriage.
She's multicultural over here, everybody.
I am. Look at me.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was swimming in the sea today, and it reminded me that I get extremely tired if I swim in the sea because it's so cold. It's the Atlantic Ocean.
I was going to say, is it warm or?
No. Although it's like unseasonably warm right now. Like it was like 19 degrees, which Google tells me is about 66 degrees. Today.
In the water?
No.
Or outside?
Outside the water, which is like practically tropical for us. So we were like, going around.
You're out there
in
like slathering
shorts.
on.
Yeah. We had sunscreen on, bikinis. We went in the water. We splashed about. We screamed every time a wave hit us. It was great. It was so cold. Oh my God.
You're like, my boobs.
Yeah, pretty much. It hit my nipples at one point and I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to survive this. Why does God send us toughest battles?
I'm not the strongest soldier.
No, definitely not. Speaking of freezing, we're going to talk about a bitch who will freeze you in your place. Oh, yeah. Wasn't that a good segue? You didn't react. Tell me it was clever.
Sorry, the sun's back to blasting me in the face, so I got really distracted. I was like, you son of a bitch. And then I just hear your, oh, me lucky charms.
Yes. Today's episode is about Medusa, the myth, the legend, the Gorgon, the scary bitch. We're going to get into her episode. Right up top, we're going to be talking about sexual assault, rape within the context of myths and symbolism. And we're not going to get into any details, but just want to let anybody know going into this that is going to be coming up.
Yeah, it's not going to get graphic, but it will be mentioned.
Yeah, it will be mentioned. And if you're not in the headspace for that, that's cool. Just rate us 5 stars and leave.
Say it was a great episode.
Say it was your favorite episode ever and then just go away. We won't be offended. I want to thank TikTok user So What If I Knit. So that's so as in SEW, who I put up a video asking people who they would like to see covered on the podcast about feminist folklore and mythology characters. And their comment said, I would say Medusa because everyone knows the Roman story of her, not the actual Greek one. And it drives me a bit potty seeing people get her story wrong. So,
potty?
Potty, yeah. So you can tell that that's a British person. Potty means
like
crazy.
Potty?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like slang for crazy.
You're not watching White Lotus, correct?
No.
I just watched the finale and I'm dying because I need to talk to somebody about it. But anyway, the actor Walton Goggins, do you know who that is?
Yes, I love him. He was in Fallout.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because now all of a sudden I did not know who he was until this show.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like he's everywhere all of a sudden. And I'm anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, there was like a meme about his hair. And it was like, his hair is so clapped, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't realize clapped meant ugly in like British slang.
Yeah. Is it British? I just thought it was internet slang.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And honestly, I thought it was more of like a black term.
Yeah, so did I.
It was clapped like
clapped out.
So that was really, but I didn't know what it meant. So I was just like, clapped. Like, what does that mean?
It's like that slang term based. And every time I see it, I think it's a bad thing, but apparently it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
I thought clapped was a good thing. Like, I thought it meant, like, look at that fucking hairline.
Like, clap, clap.
Like, it's impressive.
Yeah.
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 And then I found out it was ugly, and I was like, oh, wait, this changes everything I thought that this meme was about.
Yeah. Changes the entire context. So,
Yeah.
yes, potty in this
But anyway.
context means crazy. Speaking of TV, Emily and I are obsessed with The Pit. Please send us messages
Yes.
about The Pit.
We want to talk about it.
We want to talk about it. We have, in our time, we have one episode to go. And it's so fucking good. And it's not out in Ireland yet, so I feel sorry. Every time I post about it, my Irish friends are like, where can I watch this? And I'm like, you need to pirate it online. Like I do. Arr.
Secret ways.
Yes.
That's so funny.
Yes.
Although it's so funny because another podcast that I listened to, they were talking about it and they were like, they were saying kind of the thing that I said. They're like, there's a lot of people who are having some feelings about the way that they're trying to slam a bunch of shit into the end of it. And I was like, it's
Yeah, I get that.
kind of like, oh, we're going to check all the, current event.
Yeah, topical medical
relevant.
things.
Topical, yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
everything is going in, but like, yeah, it's, other than that, amazing. Elaine was just texting me before I got on mic about it because she started it like, I think she started it like 4 days ago and she's like up to date almost.
I think that's how you felt about me because I started, and you're like, wait, you're caught up? I was like, yes.
Yeah, because I'm trying to be so careful about what I say to people about it. And then they're just like, no, I'm at that episode. I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too funny.
But it's so good. And Noah Wyle needs all the awards. He's amazing.
Zaddy.
He is Zaddy. For anybody not aware, it's a medical drama set in an ER department in Pittsburgh. And it's done in the style of 24. So each episode is 1 hour of the same shift in the emergency department. And it is so good. It deals with a lot of things like the trauma from COVID. It deals with the abuse that people who work like in the medical field have to endure. It deals with problems that they have with patients, administration, and it's just a lot of really interesting characters and cases. And yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, in the aspect of like the healthcare system within the US, which is garbage.
And it makes you want to find your nearest nurse and hug them really tight.
Yeah.
So
every nurse that I have, I'm like, thank you so much for doing what you do.
yeah. And doctors too. We give doctors a little bit of shit last episode, but the doctors are pretty great too.
The doctors are okay. It depends on the doctor.
Dr.
I've
Robbie
rarely had
gets all the awards ever.
And a date, maybe? No.
And a date. As long as he looks at me with those huge brown eyes. I just feel very sad when he looks at me. Let's get into Medusa. This is going to be fun to edit.
Yeah. Anyway. Oh my God.
So Medusa, everybody's got a picture in their heads of who she is and what she looks like. You guys know that she's from Greek mythology, Roman mythology. As our commenter pointed out, there are some differences between how she is portrayed in both mythologies. So this is your one-stop shop, back to basics. Who is she? What are the differences? What happened to her? What's her legacy? We're going to get into it right now. So sit tight or go out and walk. It's probably nice outside. We're going to keep you company for the next hour or so. And enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay. So to start us off, I have a quote by a scholar called David Leeming, who wrote an entire book about Medusa called Medusa in the Mirror of Time. And it goes like this. Medusa petrifies, from petrificare, from petra, meaning rock. Her face turned the ancients to stone. For Dante, she was the erotic power that could destroy men. Freud saw in her hair a nest of terrifying penises signaling castration. For Perseus and his patriarchal culture, she was a dangerous female monster to be destroyed. Yet in our time, Medusa's reputation has improved. Feminists see her as a noble victim of the patriarchy. The fashion house Versace celebrates the lure of her mysterious face in a logo which stares at us from its ads for men's underwear, haute couture, and exotic dinnerware. She is even on the menu of a Disney resort as a Medusa sushi roll. In our mercantile culture, she is once again a power player demanding to be recognized. Medusa still transfixes us. End of episode. No. that's pretty much encapsulates like who she is culturally. And we did say that we wanted to do more goddesses and we wanted to do more single subject episodes. So I think there's no better one than Medusa to... So not strictly a goddess, Medusa was a creature called a gorgon. So we'll get into what a gorgon is.
Have you watched the movie? I think it's called The Gorgons or Gorgon.
No, I haven't.
It's an old, like, Christopher Lee movie.
Ooh.
It's good. We watched it a couple years ago. We should probably watch it again.
Yeah, because I was saying to you just while I was like preparing, I was watching like a rundown of like Medusa in her portrayals in film and TV, and it went through a lot of them. Some of them I recognized. The only one I had actually seen myself was from Percy Jackson, which was in 2010, and Uma Thurman plays Medusa, which is pretty cool. And the clip
that's a good choice.
Yeah, because she's beautiful, but she's sort of like scary and ethereal, and yeah, it's pretty early on in the film as well, if I remember right. But yeah, her battle is on YouTube when he battles her. It's pretty cool. So we'll get into the Greek version of the story, and then we'll talk about how the Roman version, like our commenter said, differs. So Medusa was a Libyan princess, daughter of the marine deities Phorcus and Cato. According to the Greek poet Hesiod, who lived sometime between 750 and 650 BCE, Medusa came from one of the oldest divine families in mythology. In his poem Theogony, which that name literally means the birth of the gods, Hesiod tells us that Gaia, the personification of the earth, gave birth asexually to Pontus, who is the personification of the sea. Then things get very mythological and incestuous.
I was going to say, does that mean incest?
Of course it does. Pontus and Gaia, so mother and son, ended up producing 2 children together, who were Phorcus and Cato. Phorcus was a sea god, and he was often referred to as the old man of the sea. Cato was a sea monster, and her name is actually related to the Greek word for whale. So Phorcus and Cato ruled over all the monsters of the deep, and they had a lot of terrifying children, and Medusa was one of them. She was part of a trio of sisters known as the Gorgons, and she was the only one of the 3 sisters who was mortal. The name Gorgon comes from the ancient Greek word meaning grim, fierce, and terrible. And Medusa's name derives from an ancient Greek verb meaning to guard or to protect. I cannot read ancient Greek, so I'm not going to try and pronounce that.
Okay.
I mean, you can't read ancient Greek.
How dare you? You didn't take that class. If I call myself, would I say a Gorgon or just Gorgon? Anyway, if I did, is that cultural appropriation?
I don't think so. I think the classics have sort of been disseminated into popular culture in such a way that, like, as much as Greek people would take a lot of pride in their... I mean, if you're a Greek person listening to this, please correct me. Greek people would take a lot of pride in their culture and their history. But, I mean, it's sort of gone around the world by now, and most of Western civilization is based on Greco-Roman culture, especially democracy. So, yeah, I don't think it's cultural appropriation. But yeah, let us know.
Because did you... I don't know why, but I would have like guy friends who would be like, yeah, you're like kind of scary and intense. And I was like, what? Like, I never understood that.
That is a compliment. Yeah, like I was told pretty recently, and if you're listening, the person who told me is huge compliment that I was very intimidating when they first met me, and then they realized I was really nice, and I was like, that's exactly the vibe I want to give off. I want to be extremely intimidating, and then when you get to know me, I'm pretty nice.
Yeah, people have told me that I'm intimidating, which is very strange for me because I feel like a rabbit dressed in cotton candy. Like, I feel like I'm not
Yeah.
intimidating at all.
But I feel like the best people are like that. You think they're kind of a bitch when you first meet them. Like, I have a friend like that like I was convinced she hated me, and then she invited me to go hang out with her, and I was like, what?
You're like, oh my god, you like me?
Yeah, you like me? I feel really special now.
Yeah, that's too funny.
The Gorgons themselves were fearsome. They were dread monsters with eyes so terrifying that they could stop you in your tracks. In fact, the image of a Gorgon's head was famously displayed on the Aegis, which is the protective shield or cloak of the goddess Athena. And we'll get into how she got that. That Gorgon face wasn't just for show. It was said to make her invincible in battle, protecting her from any weapon and striking terror into the hearts of her enemies. Even the Gorgon's blood was legendary. It was believed to have incredible powers. Some of it could heal, and some of it was a deadly poison. Which sounds like a bit of a gamble.
Right?
Like, somebody's like, oh, I got something for that. And they're like, it'll either kill you or it'll help.
Yeah, or it'll make it better.
Or maybe this was like an early like thing of, what is it they say, the poison makes the dose? You know, you could have like something that is in a little bit, like you could take one pill of something and it would help you, but if you overdose on it, then it will poison you and you'll die.
Like fentanyl.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's actually, I didn't even know that they use it in hospitals. It's like anesthesia, basically.
Yeah.
But people, it's such a calculated dosage that if you're just willy-nilly with
Ewan
it.
was given it with his arm. He was given it when they were like resetting his arm. He said that like it was so intense, but he was like, he can 100% see how people get addicted to it. Because he was like, he just felt the best he'd ever felt in his life. And he was like, never getting that again. It was too nice.
That just gave me chills. That's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Scary.
Right. There is a generally accepted definitive myth of Medusa, like our commenter said, and it differs from mythologies. And we'll get into it now. And I just want to note before we get into the actual myth that as I recited this, I'm keeping the Greek names of the deities because they were the original ones. But if you read this elsewhere, you could interchange Poseidon with Neptune, and Athena is also Minerva. And we will get into it now with our transition. In the ancient city of Argos, eldest of all Greece's strongholds, the line of Danaus reigned, descended from foreign sands and bound by prophecy. Among his heirs was Acrisios, a king whose life was marked by conflict. Even in his mother's womb, he wrestled with his twin, Proetus, a rivalry that would shape their kingdoms. To Acrisius came an oracle's dreadful truth. His daughter would bear a son destined to end his life. In a desperate attempt to thwart fate, he imprisoned Danae in a chamber of bronze, deep below ground, far from the reach of mortal men. But the gods are not bound by walls. Zeus, overcome by desire, descended upon her in the form of a golden shower. Thus Perseus was conceived, a child born of divine will. Acrisius refused to believe the tale, yet he dared not slay them. Instead, he cast Danae and her infant son into the sea within a wooden ark. The waves bore them safely to Seriphos, where a fisherman, Dictys, drew them from the surf and brought them to his brother, King Polydectes. Years passed. Polydectes, now grown lustful for Danae, sought to take her as his wife. She refused, and Perseus stood in his mother's defence. The king, masking his anger, announced a false wedding and demanded gifts from all. When Perseus boasted that he would bring the head of Medusa instead of horses, Polydectes agreed, hoping the youth would die by the hand or gaze of the Gorgon. Medusa, child of Phorcys and Cato, was born of the deepest sea, descendant of primordial gods. Her siblings were monsters, the dragon Ladon, the many-headed Scylla, and Echidna, half woman, half serpent. Medusa was one of 3 Gorgon sisters, yet, unlike the others, she was mortal. Once a maiden of great beauty, she had served in Athena's temple. There, Poseidon, god of the sea, ravished her. Whether it was in a meadow of flowers or upon the cold stone of a sacred shrine, the outcome was the same. Athena, unable to punish her uncle, turned her fury upon Medusa. Her golden hair became living snakes. Her eyes, once admired, turned any onlooker into stone. Cast out from the world of men and gods, she fled to the far reaches of the earth, where darkness lingered and silence reigned. Perseus, who was blessed by the gods, was not sent unarmed. Athena gifted him a shield, polished like a mirror. Hermes, his brother by Zeus, gave him a curved blade of adamant. To find the rest, winged sandals, a helm of invisibility, and the kibisis to carry her head, he had to bargain with the Graii, 3 ancient sisters who shared a single eye and tooth. Deftly, he stole them mid-passing and forced them to reveal the nymph's hidden dwelling where the divine items were kept. So equipped, Perseus reached the Gorgon's lair at the end of the earth, where ocean met shadow. Among bodies turned to stone, the sisters lay sleeping. Medusa, the only mortal, lay still beneath the shifting mass of serpents. Guided by Athena, Perseus gazed only at her reflection in the shield and struck. Her head fell with one blow, and from her blood sprang Pegasus and Chrysaor, offspring of Poseidon's assault. Perseus fled, pursued by the immortal Gorgons, but the helm hid him from their wrath. He carried Medusa's head across the world, turning Atlas to stone and birthing the snakes of Libya with her spilled blood. He freed Andromeda, slew monsters and kings, and placed the severed head upon Athena's shield. Thus ended the tale of Medusa, not as monster, but as maiden, wronged and reviled, not by choice, but by the whims of gods and the violence of men. She became a symbol of horror and of tragic, immortal power.
A golden shower.
Yeah, golden shower, that's like questionable, right?
What kind of golden shower?
Yeah, he's like the god of fucking and freaky fucking, apparently, in a golden shower.
A kiki. Isn't that the... Or am I just thinking of the movie Hercules, the animated film, where it's like the fates, they share an eyeball?
So it's probably like an amalgamation of these. So that is like the general myth that we see, like Medusa, she is sometimes a beautiful woman, sometimes she's born a Gorgon. She lays with Poseidon in some versions. In other versions, she is raped by Poseidon.
I'm betting it's the latter.
Yeah. And I think it's the latter version that really has contributed most to people identifying with her and why she has such an enduring legacy, especially now because, you know, there are a lot of characters in Greek mythology and in Roman mythology, but Medusa is one of the ones that, like, if you asked most people, you know, name a Greek or Roman, like, mythological character, they would probably say Zeus, they'd probably say Poseidon, and they would probably say Medusa.
Yeah. I think Athena is, like, a big one, too.
Right, yeah.
But point being, yes. Yeah, like, Medusa is, like, one of the big ones.
Right.
Because, yeah. Well, and you and I were talking about this, not on the podcast, about how she's, like, the symbol of... And you're probably going to get into this. The symbol of, like, yeah. And then you and I talked about it, and I was like, yeah, that's why I wore her around on my little necklace, which I have to find.
So I'll get into more specifically the Greek versus Roman versions and the differences. So in the early periods, especially in archaic Greek art, the Gorgons were always shown as monstrously ugly. So they had wild hair, tusks, and glaring eyes, but that changed
So-
over time as the myth evolved.
I was like, so I can identify.
You can. If you see yourself in her, you see yourself in her. I'm not going to take it away
I'm
from
ugly with tusks.
you. No. Eventually, artists began to depict Gorgons as beautiful young women, haunting but strikingly lovely. In one of these later versions, when Medusa's father died, she became a queen and she would go hunting and lead her people in battle. Perseus led an army against Medusa from the Peloponnese. Medusa was treacherously murdered at night, and Perseus was so taken by her beauty that he cut off her head so that he might show it to people in Greece. He then brought it back to Argos and buried it in the marketplace so that it would give protection to the city. So that's the version where like she's so beautiful that he's like, I need to show people how beautiful she is. So he cuts off her head, which is, in the Greek heat. I don't know if that was a very good way of preserving her beauty, but anyway.
It's a very interesting way. If anything, the beauty's gonna fade faster once that thing starts to decomposition.
Yeah, and it's very much an instance of men's desire to possess beautiful things and
Yeah, like
to like
property.
steal women's beauty as property. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
very much of a version of that.
When you did your pine cones episode on the pregnancy superstitions, and you touched on the thing about people say that if you're pregnant with a girl, you feel ugly because the daughter's stealing your beauty. I
Right.
met somebody who she was like, yeah, I think I'm having a girl because I feel really ugly. And I
Yeah.
was like, how? Well, this was when I was pregnant with my daughter. I'm like, how in 2023?
Right.
2020. Wait, when was I pregnant? I don't even know. Whenever I was pregnant with her in the last few years. I was like, how are we believing in this? Like, that's so crazy. Because if anything, I felt really pretty when I was pregnant with my daughter. I felt fucking hideous when I was pregnant with my son. I gained way
Right.
more weight. I got like spots that appeared on my face. Like weird things were happening to my body. I got way more stretch marks. And not that stretch marks are ugly, but I just like
Your
I
body
just
changed
felt-
a lot more. Yeah.
yeah, it did. And I was just
Right.
like, ugh.
Yeah, I just find that so interesting because I had heard that before and it never sat right with me that people are like, oh, girls steal your beauty, and you're just kind of like
It just sets up
it's
that whole like weird.
competitiveness.
Is it like the Oedipus complex sort of thing,
Mhm.
where it's sort of like daughters are fighting with their mothers for their dad's attention, and
Right.
sons are fighting with their fathers for their mom's attention.
Right.
And so it's kind of like it's already setting you up before this baby's even born. It's setting you up in this way that's like you're gonna be fighting for your daughter's youth and attention, which
Right.
is fucking disgusting.
And there
Sorry,
are
this is a
unfortunately
tangent.
yeah, but like there are unfortunately some people who like that is their reality. Like they definitely felt like their mother was jealous of them growing up, or like, maybe it's something that like their mother felt very much unfulfilled, or that she didn't get to do everything that she wanted to do because of motherhood. So like it is difficult for her to see her daughter going through things that she would have wanted for herself.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is wild because like I look at my daughter and because you've seen her,
Yeah.
but I think she's so precious, and even though she's like so little, she's like so charismatic, and she
Mhm.
has like these beautiful long eyelashes, and I just look at her beautiful eyes and I'm just like, get 'em, queen, slay.
Yeah.
Like I just want her to be the best, and like she just has this energy that I'm just like, it makes me want to step aside for her. It makes me want to be like, you can do anything. You're the best. You're whatever.
Mhm. And you
As
couldn't
opposed to
imagine
being like-
ever wanting to dampen that and take away any of her
Yeah.
confidence.
Because and it's so funny too. I don't know if you saw it. It was like a meme or something. You might have even sent it. I don't know who she is. She's like, I think she's in the Snow White movie, but it was like a picture of her from the back, and she has like hair on her back. It's not like hair, but it's like,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
have you seen this?
It's like downy hair. Yeah. But it's obviously
Yeah.
she is, I think she's mixed race. I don't know. Is she Latina? I'm 100% do not know her ethnicity, but obviously she is she has darker coloring. She has dark eyes, dark hair. So obviously her downy hair on her body is a little bit darker. And yeah, the meme was like, some guy was like, ew. And then somebody had responded like, oh, men are outing themselves for never being around a woman before. Because like,
yeah, it was like, way to tell everybody that you've never seen a woman up close.
yeah, right. Because like, it's the most normal thing in the world. Every woman has that.
Yeah. And my daughter has like, she has like the small, like the light hair, like on her back. But like,
Right.
you know, my husband is Mexican. He has like dark skin, dark hair, all that stuff. Him and I both have very thick hair.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I have hair on my body too.
Right.
And I just like, it's so funny because I look at her and it's like really cute to me. I'm like, look at her little back hairs. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
And it just makes me sad that people, I mean, when I was growing up, I was like, oh my God, I'm Bigfoot. Like, I'm so ugly. I'm covered in hair, even though it's not like thick hair.
We get so conditioned so early that like women have to be hairless and like smooth and basically, like, I don't even want to say prepubescent because obviously tiny kids have body hair, like they have downy hair, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just like any signifier of age or puberty is almost, it has to be erased as soon as possible because our society has fucked up ideas of beauty that are tied to youth and pedophilia, and I will die on that hill. That's why
it's disgusting.
there are so many extremely popular OnlyFans creators who are baby voiced and dressed like little girls and they wear their little cat ears, and it is so fucked up to me that there are grown men paying them for sexual content. And I'm not blaming the girls.
No.
I am a little bit, but I'm also not, because they wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't a market there for it.
Right. Yeah, if there's nothing to sell.
Right.
Or if there's nobody buying, there's nothing to sell.
Yeah, but I also don't know how those girls can do that without feeling a little bit icky about it.
Right, and I agree with that too. It's kind of like, yeah, like there is a market for it, but don't you... I wouldn't want to appeal to that market because I'm like, you're filthy and that's gross and kill yourself. Just kidding.
Yeah, but it's like, if that is what people are attracted to, it's a red flag. Because I'm just like,
right.
Are you thinking that this is a loophole just because she happens to be of age? Like, is that what this is here? You know?
Right.
And it's like that statistic that like waitresses make more tips if they wear pigtails.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Gross. Well,
part of me, like, I would like to think that that's because people see them as like young and deserving of support. And people are like, oh, this is just a college girl who needs to like make her rent. Like, so I'm going to tip her a little bit extra, you know?
Right.
That's what I would like to believe it is.
It's her after school job.
Yeah. She's just a kid. She's trying to make a little bit of money. Let's help her out. Yeah.
I never knew that was a thing, but I thought you were going to bring up the, I think it was like Match.com or somebody. I think they did this study where it was something about like, they polled men on like which faces were the most attractive, and then they polled women on which faces were the most attractive or like appealing to them. And the average age for men was like 18 or something like that.
And that was the
average
youngest
age for women was like the average age for women was like 38 or something. Like it was like a full grown man.
And like the graph that they published that was like showing like relative to your age, what age you find attractive. And for men, it stayed around like 18 to 26, no matter what age they were. Whereas women, it grew with them. Like women in their 30s were like, well, I actually quite like guys age 30 to 50. And whereas the men, it kind of just stayed the same. And it was also very interesting that 18 was the youngest they were allowed to select. Because we all know if it was younger, they would have said younger. Like, it's just,
Which is absolutely disgusting. And please check your bingo cards for Niamh and Emily talking about how much they hate men.
Yeah. My hope as well, if there are men listening to this, like, obviously, if this isn't you, you're not going to feel attacked. You know? We don't mean you if you don't act this way.
Right.
And there are plenty of men who are like, no, fuck no. I like my women who are all women, like fully mature. Like, I want them to like even be a little bit older than me, you know?
Yeah.
That's the privilege of growing old with somebody, that you're going to see them. Like, my husband does not look the same as he did when he was 25 when I met him. And thank God, because I wouldn't want to be with a guy who looks like he's 25 at my age. Yeah. My God. His beard is a thing of beauty, and he could have not have grown it back then. I'm very happy about it.
This is so funny. Yeah. Yeah, it's, you know, it's really important to have somebody who acknowledges that, like, you're a full human being and you're not just like this weird object that's supposed to be pristine forever.
Right. And as hard as it can be to watch your own face change and watch your body change and to grow old, I mean, you are, as hard as it is, this is your reminder if you're listening to this, you are not what you look like. Your body is the least interesting thing about you. You know?
For real. I mean, I like, you know, if somebody has super cool hair or nails, like Niamh has super cool nails right now.
Yes, I was like, they're kind of like Medusa nails. They kind of look like snake eyes or something, right?
They're super cool. Yeah.
I'm so happy with them.
You can like decorate yourself, kind of, is kind of how I look at it.
Yeah.
But it's
you get
not...
one body. Why wouldn't you customize it?
Yeah.
I like when people refer to it as customizing their character, like it's a video game.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, because you're in this vessel and like make it fun to look at. It's like I didn't look my thighs. Or fun to be in. Right.
It doesn't even need to be like something that's observed by somebody else.
Exactly.
You can just be like, no, I want my nails to be whatever. Or, you know.
I always think like nails, like nail art is perfect for people who love tattoos, but like have semi-commitment issues. Because you get like 3 weeks to a month out of them and you get to enjoy them and then they're gone.
Yeah. It's very nice.
And like I was just saying, like I was not a fan of what my thighs looked like. Just weren't my favorite thing about me. So I got giant tattoos over them and now they make me happy when I look at them. So yeah. And I paid a lot of money to a very talented artist to draw it up and to tattoo me. So yeah, why wouldn't you?
What did
Back
Medusa to Medusa do to make herself look nice?
Well,
have you seen the meme that's like, is Medusa's pubic hair like little snakes?
Yeah. Or there's the other one of like, if she wore like a shower cap, would it be like all of the little snakes wore tiny little shower caps? Or would she like wear one?
Like
wear
cover
one big
the
one?
snakes?
Yeah.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
You're like her armpit hair. Little snakes. Can you imagine? Medusa has a ton of body hair and it's like all tiny snakes. That would actually be very gross.
Yeah.
All the movement.
Yeah, she would be constantly itchy. Oh my God. Her head's probably constantly itchy.
Yeah.
Do you ever get that feeling like your skin's crawling or your scalp's crawling? Like, that would be Medusa like all the time. Yeah.
Am I Medusa? Because I'm always like, ugh.
She's quite interesting in that she's multifaceted. So the Greek version, particularly as mentioned by Hesiod and Apollodorus, frames Medusa's transformation into a Gorgon more as a result of her own personal flaws or, at times, divine jealousy. Her beauty and defiance might have played a role in angering the gods, which is interesting. So it's like forcing conformity on a woman that like she has to be devout and good and humble and quiet and precious. But she was not those things.
It's like we keep hitting these themes of like Baba Yaga and where we keep being drawn to these characters that are like supposed to be all of these things, but they're not.
She is not a well-behaved woman. And like that quote goes, well-behaved women seldom make history. So like it's the fact that like these are always like they're intended to be cautionary tales for the people hearing them at the time that this was, you know, the pantheon and this was the religion. But when Emily and I come along in 2025, we're like, fuck yeah, bitch. Don't listen to them. You show those gods who's boss. Yeah. It just makes her more sympathetic to us.
I just recently heard this quote. I'm not sure if I'm getting it word for word. It's like, don't comply in advance.
Oh, I've never
heard
heard
I was
that.
like, It was one of those things where I kind of like marinated on it while I was driving because I was listening to it. It was in a podcast. Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? Yeah. Because they're talking about the current administration in the United States of America, which is like, I'm sorry, if you're listening to this podcast, it's garbage.
Yeah, we know.
And
we get the news about America as well.
Yeah, right. No, I just like, if somebody's listening to this podcast and they think like things are fine, they're not. And maybe get your head out of your ass.
I wish I could live like that. Imagine just living like a world where you're just like, oh, I haven't actually heard any of this.
Yeah.
Imagine. Goals.
Must be nice.
I know.
So what about Medusa?
Yeah, this is the tangentiest episode. This is what happens when I get you later on in the day.
Hey guys, it's Corey from Surviving Reality. Don't miss Hulu's new original series, Got to Get Out. It's a reality competition series hosted by Simu Liu, where 9 celebrities are locked in a mansion with 11 reality TV rookies, all scheming on how to escape the estate and take home $1 million. Got to Get Out is stacked with reality royalty, including Spencer Pratt from The Hills, Kim Zolciak-Biermann and Cynthia Bailey from Real Housewives, Omarosa from The Apprentice, Susan Knowles and Demi Burnett from The Bachelor, and more. All episodes of Got to Get Out are now streaming on Hulu.
I don't know about you, but the number one thing I look forward to when I return from traveling is a good night's sleep in my own bed. That has never been more true than it is now that I have a Sleep Number smart bed. I get so sore after traveling on planes, but after literally one night in my Sleep Number smart bed, my body feels restored, rested, and relaxed. The fact that my bed actually listens to my body and adjusts to my needs to keep me sleeping soundly all the way through the night is worth it alone. Not to mention, my husband and I never need to argue over firmness because we can each dial in our own Sleep Number setting. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? So you can choose your ideal comfort on either side. And now, for a limited time, Sleep Number smart beds start at $849. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. See store or sleepnumber.com for details.
Oh yeah, I was talking about her own personal flaws and angering the gods. So yeah, it's like trying to make her conform and make her like a good girl. And it's anybody listening to her going like, oh, this is what happens when you're not like the good, nice, devout woman that we want you to be, we being society collectively.
Oh, and I was talking about that quote of like, don't comply in advance. And it was, they were just kind of basically talking about like, they want you to feel fear. They want you to not stand up for things. But like, don't do that. Because is it against the law? No. It might be soon. But don't assume that you're like going to get in trouble for sticking up for what you believe in, basically. Which I was like, that's a really good quote.
A society that's afraid is easier to control. So they're definitely going to. And like, I've seen it a lot. Like, there's a lot of people, obviously, a lot more learned in this stuff than I am. But there is a correlation between Republican governments and the rise of skinny culture and thin being in, because being thin and being skinny, and I'm not talking about if you're born that way, I'm talking about people who have to seriously work at being skinny and to deprive themselves of calories and all of that. That is a method of control. It's a method of conforming, and it's society demanding you change your body in a certain way that is not natural for you. And it's very interesting that there's a correlation between right-wing Republican governments and thinness.
That's
and
so weird.
Isn't it? There's also the theory that women who are so focused on their appearance and on dieting are easier to control because they're conforming in that way. And if most of your brain capacity is kept up on thinness and being skinny and like dieting and all of that. And I'm saying this as somebody who is constantly working out and
you
I'm
go to the gym
like
every day.
And I do take a lot of
I only
note
say
of
this
what,
because I hear Niamh being like, oh, I ate like shit this last week and now I got to get back to my normal eating, which is like cracked wheat crackers or whatever you eat.
Yeah, just lettuce all day.
Lettuce and flaxseed.
No, but and I'm saying this as somebody who, like, I do spend a lot of time thinking about food and like what I eat and what I'm putting in my body and what I want that to do for me physically. But women who diet and women who are thinking about using that brain capacity on being skinny are not thinking about revolting, and they're not thinking about protesting, and they're not thinking about standing up for their rights and disrupting. And that is a very interesting theory too, because if you are absolutely not embroiled, like absorbed by diet culture and being thin and what you look like and
your brain is occupied by
looking a certain way. Yeah. You only have a certain amount of brain capacity. And I often say that, like I've said it to, there's a friend of mine who is on a similar journey to me. And I like, there have been times when we've just said to each other, like, I would just like to not have to think about this. I would like to never have to think about this again. And that would be very nice, you know. It does take up your brain capacity, you know.
Well, and that's why, like, relating it back to where I'm at in my phase of my life right now is like the mom brain, because especially when you have a tiny baby, you're like, okay, well, when was the last time they were fed, and how much did they eat, and when did they last poop, and when did they last nap, and it's like all of this stuff. I've had people reach out to me. My kids have been having like a particularly rough time the last few weeks, especially the small one. And like people have reached out to me and are like wanting advice and wanting help and things like that. And I've just straight up been like, I'm sorry. I just don't have the capacity for this right now. Yeah. Because all of my mental energy has gone to my kids and myself, trying to keep myself somewhat sane.
Yeah, I have seen the topic come up about like people feeling like they've lost friendships because their friend has had kids and their friend doesn't have much time for them anymore. But that is like relationships are not transactional. Friendships are not transactional. Yeah. This is my thoughts on it. Sure, it might be a little bit disheartening or frustrating if like, and this is not just you, it's like anybody I know who has kids, like you say something to them and like you'll not get an answer, or you know, some parents can be a little bit dismissive and it's like, you know, like my problems are still problems just because I don't have kids, you know what I mean? Like something that's a big deal to me, just because it's not as big a deal to you who has kids doesn't mean that it's not a big deal, and I also deserve to have support and all of that. So like
every time my brother-in-law is like, oh, I'm exhausted, I want to be like, really? Are you? Yeah. You don't even fucking know exhausted.
I know.
But I try not to be that way.
I know. And I do appreciate that you have never made me feel like, as your friend, you've never made me feel like I can't tell you shit that's going on with me, because you'll be just like, I don't fucking care, Niamh. Like, try waking up with a toddler at like 4 a.m. because they're barfing everywhere, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's a scenario where I care a lot, but I just hit a point where I don't have the space to be able to care and give somebody what they would need in that moment.
Right. Exactly.
Like one of my friends, she was like having a really hard, she was having a really hard time. And I was just like, I can do my best to try to like talk with you through this, but I'm just letting you know, like I'm at like max capacity right now. As far as like my mental load, and I'm really sorry. So like my responses might not come right away. They might be shitty responses, whatever it is. I was like, but I'll try. I'm doing my best.
Yeah. And like this is topical because there was like, it was like the New Yorker or the Cut, and somebody had written this whole op-ed about like feeling abandoned by their friends who have children. And like my thoughts are like, because I'm the friend who does not have children, and like I said, friendships are not transactional, but also the seasons of parenthood where your friend can't be there for you are not forever, and they will come back to you if you let them and if you are there for them. And like I have friends who don't have kids, but they're also going through things where they're just not able to be there for you or like be as involved as they should be. And like, unless they are draining you, and like, you know, there are some like friendships where like it's all one-sided and you're always there for them, but they're never there for you, and all of that. Unless it's like that sort of scenario, like give your friend a little bit of grace to come back to you when they can, because they will, and they want to have friendships. And I'm sure it's scary to be going through this entire life thing and then be afraid that at the end of it your friends won't be there because you weren't able to be the friend that you would love to have been, you know?
Yeah. Well, like when I started the IVF stuff, I stopped seeing pretty much everybody. And I stopped talking to a lot of people. And it just was one of those things where I was so in my own shit that I was kind of like, I just didn't have the space to try to have relationships with people. And then, like you said, it's the parenthood stuff. I was even going to say that a little bit ago. It's like the kids will get older, and you'll hear from your friend more, and you'll be able to get together more. We were just talking about this the other day because Medardo's brother was like, "When are you going to play video games with me again?" And he was like, like when our son gets a little older. Right now, we're not in the place right now where we can just do stuff. He's too little. And even like our daughter is at the point where it sucks because she was finally at the point where we started having like a better routine of like, you go out and do this thing and I'll go out and do this thing and everything's going to be, you know, like we're feeling fulfilled. And then we had another baby and it was like, fuck.
Yeah, you just hit the reset button, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine because I think having been through it once and then doing it the second time, you do realize how fast it actually does go when you're looking back on it. It's like, you know, after a year, she was pretty, like, before she was even a year, Medarda left for like a weekend. And I was like, yeah, you go on your weekend. Like, I got this. So it doesn't even take a year for them to be, you know, and child depending. But yeah, it's like just allow your friend to like, they'll be back.
Yeah.
I promise you, they'll want you.
Yeah. And if you're the parent friend, like it's okay if you can't reply to every message or if you can't reply to everything, but it's also a lot better if you even just send a blanket message just saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so bad at replying, but I do still like care about you and I want to be able to catch up when I'm able to. And I want to, like, I still love you. I still want you in my life. I'm not cutting you out. Just, please bear with me. And like, that's okay. Friendships are hard in your 30s and when you're in different stages of life.
Is it as hard as the stone that Medusa turns people into?
And that, my friends, is how you segue back from a tangent.
A large tangent.
A very large tangent. So the Greek myth is often less sympathetic toward Medusa than the Roman version, where she is more explicitly a victim of external violence. In Hesiod, which is the Greek telling, Medusa's beauty is her most defining trait and it plays a key role in her downfall. Hesiod states that Medusa was, quote-unquote, laying with Poseidon, which some scholars have interpreted as a romantic liaison rather than what was later seen as an assault. You could say Medusa's beauty and her willing union with Poseidon could be seen as a form of divine transgression against Athena. So that also gives Athena the motive and the justification to help Perseus to get rid of her. It makes Athena look better because if it was all Medusa's own volition, then if she's getting revenge on her, it's kind of like, well, fuck you, bitch. But the other version is, and the version that's most likely what most people are familiar with, is that Medusa is a victim of sexual assault and Athena punishes her for it, which is victim blaming.
Yeah, I was going to say, how is this still culturally relevant, which is very upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
Ancient Greece, ancient Rome, we're still doing this.
All the seeds were there. I know it's like the pillars of our civilization right now, but like shouldn't be that literal, right?
Yeah.
Some versions also suggest that Medusa might have been seen as defiant or proud of her beauty. In the Greek myth, there's often a theme that mortal women who attract the gods or take pride in their appearance risk divine wrath. Medusa's beauty in this context could be seen as an expression of hubris that angered the gods, leading to her transformation, which also makes her unsympathetic because the worst thing a woman can be is confident and proud of herself, right?
Terrible.
Yeah.
How dare she? I switched sides.
I liked her when she was an ugly bitch.
Yeah. How dare she be confident?
And she was a crazy monster. So I wanted to talk about Medusa's role as a sexual assault survivor. Even when the telling later evolved into that of a sexual assault or rape survivor, as in Ovid's Metamorphose, so this is a Roman version, scholar Leo C. Curran writes that the suffering of the victim is deemed by others to be secondary to that done to the father or husband, since traditionally in Western and other societies, rape is perceived primarily as an offence against the property or honour of men. Which Emily's head is about to roll off her shoulders because she's shaking it so hard. This came up in our Celtic witchcraft / Brehon legal system, like those 2 episodes, where, yeah, it was the assault against a woman was assault against the property of a man, which is so fucked when you think of it. And you do see that in certain older traditional high fantasy sort of level. It's very Game of Thronesy, that you see these things happening.
And it's that whole I don't in war. I don't know if war is the right term.
Yeah, in conflict,
gang violence, stuff like that. Yeah, in conflict, it's well, I'll rape your wife. I'll rape your daughter. Mm-hmm. It's okay, and that's supposed to, while harming somebody that somebody loves, is obviously it's going to hurt you if you're a normal person with normal feelings. Mm-hmm. Not a complete psycho. It's so gross. Yeah. It's oh, I'm going to pee on your stuff. It's very nasty.
And it's it's this sort of internalized thing that even the best of men might not even realize, Right. And it can happen from such early on. I know you've not watched Adolescence, and it's the big topic of it's sort of dying down now, but the whole incel culture and the indoctrination of young men and all that. But there is a moment in adolescence that I think is it's very interesting to watch as a woman, and it's very interesting to watch it as a man, because you pick up on things that men may not always pick up on. Even the best of men. My husband is very feminist. He's very, anti-rape culture. If he finds out, if you point something out to him, he'll challenge it within himself. But there's a moment in, I think it's episode 3, and anybody who's watched it will know what I'm talking about. It's a very good episode, but the setting of the episode is this young guy who he's only 14, and he's been accused of murdering his female classmate for rejecting him. And he is being psychologically assessed, and the whole episode is just his psychological assessment by a female psychologist. And there's one point where he gets really heated because she's obviously challenging him, and she's trying to get to the nitty-gritty of how he got this way and all that. And
I can just imagine my therapist being he should not have a female psychologist.
Yeah. Well, it's mentioned that he has a male and a female. So it's both of their assessments that will go towards his, how he's dealt with by the court system. But her assessment, she's young and she's pretty. And you can tell that he very much wants her approval and he wants her attention. He might not even say it, but he very much wants it. And there's a moment where she's pushing his buttons, and he throws what's essentially a tantrum, and he has a hot chocolate, and he just swipes it off the table in anger. And he's trying to intimidate her and all of that. But what's very interesting is that he doesn't stop until the male guard comes in. And even though he swiped the hot chocolate that she bought him as an act of kindness off the table, he apologizes to the guard and not to her, even though the action was done against her. But he is so indoctrinated to see women as less than that it's she doesn't deserve his apology for such a simple thing, but the male guard does. And it's you only catch it, it's just literally this split second thing. And I said it to you, and then I was do you notice he apologized to the guard and not to her? And you was oh, fuck. Yeah, I never caught that. And it's just this little thing, because we've all I know I've been in situations where say a guy is being annoying, usually say out drinking or whatever, and a guy is being annoying, maybe he shoves into me or he's bothering me or whatever it is. And Ewan will just, Ewan doesn't he'll make his presence known. He'll come stand beside me or something like that. And the guy will turn around.
He seems he's large enough to not need to make his presence known.
Right. That's all he needs to do. Like, I think
Just
the most
be present.
the most I've seen him say to anybody is, "Are you lost?" Like
That's
if
so
somebody's
funny.
like standing too close to me or something. And like, you know, I'm giving him the signal that I need him to like step in, or that I'm feeling uncomfortable or whatever it is.
Furiously blinking.
Exactly. Or like, you know, tilting my head in a certain way.
Hello.
But I have had guys that like have, you know, they've knocked into me or they've spilled my drink or whatever it is. And when they see you
Let
and
me
they'll
guess.
turn around.
They apologize to him
Right.
and not you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't even think they know they're doing it. I don't think they even register it. And it's just
No,
like
they don't
one of
clock
those
it at
little
all.
acts. Yeah.
I've had stuff like that happen where it's like, oh, like, sorry, bro. And it's like, hi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry,
fuck me.
me, maybe? Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I wasn't the one that, like, you kept bumped into or whatever it was.
It's these little things that like you pick up on and you notice them as a woman just going through the world, that you're just like 9 times out of 10 you don't even bother doing anything about it because you're like, I'm picking my battles. This is already
Right.
annoying enough. All these little things. The suffering of the victim is secondary to that done to her father or husband. Also not something that is extinct. It is something that is very much still alive. And I wanted to point out that in this case, the offense was against the honor and sanctity of the goddess Athena. So Athena is taking the place of the patriarchal person.
She's a man, baby.
Yeah, because she has the added authority of being a goddess, because she is part of the pantheon of gods. So even though she's not like a male figure, she has the authority of one. And it's also like reducing Medusa's agency down into what happened to her was only bad because it offended Athena. So where Medusa continues to fascinate people is her evolution from monster to victim. Today, she is a symbol for sexual assault survivors. Sophie Doherty from the Open University writes that social media users are now reframing the story of Medusa and are no longer portraying her as a villain. Now, I do believe this is sort of like, it probably dates back a little older than social media, I would wager, but it's something that like I learned about it through social media. Instead, victim survivors of sexual violence are embracing the story of Medusa, highlighting that she too was a victim of sexual violence and was punished for her own rape, an experience that very much resonates in the 21st century. Far from solely being understood as a hideous monster, Medusa can be understood as an icon for victim survivors of sexual violence, combating stigma and victim blaming. And yes, I think the victim blaming is very much what attracts people to this story.
I think the documentary is called Woman 23. Yeah, okay. So like MGM, the like production studio, used to throw these like huge parties. And there were girls who were there to be like entertainment, but more like dancing and things like that. But like then they would suffer, you know, they were treated as though they were kind of like sex objects.
Mm-hmm.
And so the documentary is trying to, I'm like, it's a little foggy. I believe it was trying to like follow up with these women. And it was telling the story, but they tried to like find, I think, this one specific woman. Anyway, they found her.
So like, sorry, just to clarify, this is MGM like back in the day when people would be, because the way Hollywood used to work is you were contracted to a studio rather than to a movie. So this was back in like the golden age of Hollywood. Would that be like, would these women be a lot older now?
So Patricia Douglas, she was born in 1917.
Right, yeah. So it would have been like
1937 sexual assault. It was documented in the film Girl 27, and she kind of talks about it. She kind of like skirts around it. It's weird, but basically like everybody sees her as this really like crotchety, grumpy old woman, and they're like, well, she's just mean. And I don't know if you have women in your life who are like this. I knew like some people's grandmas who were just like mean. They were just mean old ladies. It was when I saw this documentary, all of a sudden I was like, oh, it clicked with me. I was like, these were women who probably were victims of sexual assault or abuse or something traumatic. They were probably blamed for it, silenced, and they boxed it up and they tried to put it away, but it, in their old age, just kind of exploded in this way of just like, I hate everybody. Everyone's mean. Everyone's awful. Everyone's out to get me. You know, the list goes on. And it was just like a really sad moment for me because I'm like, what would these women be if somebody took them seriously, said, I'm sorry this happened to you. How can I support you? What can we do? You know, had it been handled differently, they could have been, you know, beautiful grandmas who baked cookies and loved their grandchildren and stuff, instead of like these isolated women who are just bitter and everybody was like, no, she's mean.
And I mean, there's also the victim blaming aspect of like, you know, let him down gently. You have to be nice.
Right.
And then when he doesn't take it, like, you have to be firm with him. You should be meaner. Why aren't you meaner? Like, make him get the point. And it's sort of like, maybe these were women, they could be women who were like really nice and sweet and kind. And you're like, well, look what happened to me because I was so nice and polite. And maybe this is my fault. You know, you internalize those sort of things. And like, that's an aspect of victim blaming too. Like, you can't fucking win.
Yeah, you can't win. And that, I feel like that relates to Medusa because it's like, she was villainized for so long. And she was seen, oh, she's evil, she's this, she's that. And now we're coming to a place as a culture where it's not about, you know, people are starting to realize victim blaming and things like that. And that's why our view of Medusa is changing.
Right. I love that, like, people have seen in her a symbol of the different layers of women and, like, how you react to certain things. And, like, when something horrific happens to you, maybe you turn into a monster. Maybe society turns you into a monster, literally. And maybe that is your defense. And maybe people stop fucking with you because you're a monster. And maybe that makes it a lot easier for you to navigate the world. And, like, who could fucking blame you?
Really emotional response to all this right now.
I know. That's okay. You don't have to apologize at all.
I just started feeling like so many feelings.
Yeah.
Because I, like, you know, like the bitter old lady, I very much was like, that could easily be me. Because I felt so abandoned when I was really struggling. And and like, I don't know. And I'm having those thoughts again about, like, all the times when I'm like, I feel like I want to quit the podcast because it just, like, it can be, like, draining for me when I'm going through, like, stuff. But then I'm just, like, also, like, so happy we get to have these conversations and we get to, like, share them with people.
Right.
Sorry.
And that's why I think, as much as we're talking about, oh, we're on tangents and we cut this out, I think this is all really important. And I think, especially now, like we were talking about, it's so nice people seeing people protesting and feeling the same way you do. I think it must be nice for people to listen to us and go, yeah, that's how I feel. And that's what I'm annoyed about. And that's how I want to, like, I want to rant about that too. So, like, I'm so glad that there are other people in the world that feel the same way I do. Because I have that with podcasts. There's people I listen to. I'm like, when something happens in the news, I want to listen to them talk about it. Because I'm like, yeah, they're going to encapsulate exactly what I'm thinking. You know?
Right.
Yeah. And, like, and that's why, like, you don't know how you're going to react to these things until they come up. And that's why I also wanted to give you a heads up that we were doing Medusa, because obviously this is a lot for you. And that's okay. Yeah. And, like, it shows how important it is.
No, it's funny because when I did I call it trauma camp, it was like, I had to go 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, like 9 a.m. to like 3 p.m. or something. And it was like intensive, like, trauma therapy. I went for like 3 months. And it was so funny because we never directly talked about our traumas. And it was a rule. It was like, you cannot say rape, sexual assault, like war. You can't talk about your trauma. You only can say, like, I relate to this in my trauma, you know, whatever. And I told one of the therapists about how interesting it was that I was like, it's like, here's like my trauma. And we're talking about all these things around it all day long, like for days and days. And it's so weird to me how exhausting that was, because you would think that not talking about it wouldn't be as hard. But
Right.
it is actually very hard when you're just kind of like, because we would have to talk about like topics of power. They would be like, what does the word power bring up for you guys?
Right.
What does the word like discrimination bring up for you guys? Like they would just have these words and we would have to talk about, when this word comes up, I think of, you know, people in control. I think of blah, blah, blah. And that's what I feel like this episode is doing to me. It's like, I'm not talking about it directly, but it's like, there's all these little tiny things around it where I'm just like, it's in there. I'm feeling it.
Yeah. And you're associating these things. And I think,
Right.
obviously, because you're very like proactive about therapy and proactive about working through your trauma, obviously the language, you're so familiar with the language around this that it's obviously bringing up associations in your head. And that you are like, yeah, I have talked about this in therapy, this has come up in therapy, or this has come up in my reflections on what's happened.
I don't think I've cried in front of you, so it's funny. I'm just like, oh no.
Funny. I'll probably cry in front of you, so.
Niamh sees my tears and my no eyebrows.
Another aspect of Medusa that I think would speak to a lot of women currently is the aspect of women only existing for the male gaze, and like we were saying before, as like an object of beauty to possess. And it's interesting that where in the stories where Medusa is depicted as a beautiful woman, she's inevitably punished for that beauty, but especially punished for her vanity, because you can be beautiful, but you shouldn't acknowledge it, and you shouldn't admit that you are, and you shouldn't like say, yeah, I'm beautiful, because people have such a visceral reaction to that, to women like acknowledging their own beauty.
Medusa's
It's
just
like,
ticking all the cultural boxes.
oh my god, she's amazing. I'm in love with her. Like, so yeah, she's punished for that vanity. And I think I mentioned before that like in her human form, when she's a human, her greatest attribute is her hair, and that like in the confines of the story is why Athena turns her hair into snakes, because everybody's obsessed with her hair. She takes great pride in her hair, so of course like that's going to be taken away from her. And hair is such a symbol of femininity as well, like long hair.
Yeah.
There's a passage from like a retelling of the Medusa story, and it goes, "The bashful goddess turned her eyes away, nor durst such bold impurity survey. But on the ravished virgin vengeance takes, her shining hair is changed to hissing snakes." And key to Medusa's story, it's not lost on us especially that her downfall is caused by a mirrored shield. So like I was saying, it's not like strictly to the story that the mirror is turned on her and it turns her into stone, but it is a key part of her downfall, like using the mirror against her, and she should not. The mirror is the tool of her enemy. It's really reinforcing that like vanity aspect, and like it's almost like a symbolic thing that like the mirror is her downfall.
Yeah.
It's just super interesting, like for something that's like an ancient story, you know?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to finish off on Medusa's transformation into a feminist icon. So Medusa has been ultimately reclaimed as a feminist icon because she is both victim and aggressor. She rejects beauty standards and even becomes more powerful when she no longer caters to the male gaze, when she becomes monstrous. Her assault makes her monstrous, and she is let down by another woman she admires as an act of internalized misogyny. And women gravitate towards that, or, as Susan R. Powers writes, she provokes such a violent defense because she represents such intense female erotic power and strength, and she shares these characteristics with millions of women executed as witches who, like the Medusa, provided a focus for women hating in a male-dominated society.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so Medusa has a lot in common with the witches that we're always banging on about. We make no apologies for banging on about the witches.
When you said banging on about, I like imagined it like hitting somebody.
I always imagine it as like banging a drum and going, I'm going to keep talking about this until you guys listen.
Dang, 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 dang.
Which is essentially what we're doing.
Yeah, pretty much. This whole episode has been us just like with the symbols. K,
Yeah.
K, K, like in the background. You're gonna listen to everything we have to say.
So that is my episode on Medusa. I feel like she was a long time coming. She was inevitable. We were always going to do an episode on her.
So you changed your topic last minute, and it was really funny because the day that you told me, I think I'm going to do Medusa, I think it was earlier that day or the day before, I was like, stop. I was just thinking about doing Medusa.
Yeah.
So she was
Sorry if
she
I
was
stole
knocking.
your topic.
No. I think of it as like Medusa was knocking. She was like, hey,
She was.
I'm right here.
Yeah. And I think it's also like we just came out of Women's History Month. And I love that we had midwives and motherhood as like our theme for that month. Like March was like Women's History Month. So it's like we went from like that like nurturing, like women are amazing, women create life, to like women can be fucking monsters and they can turn you to stone with their stare if they want to.
Right.
And if you give them a good reason to. And that's the way we should all be in life. The people who deserve us to nurture them should get that, but the people who deserve to be fucking petrified should be petrified.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like how you said earlier, you're like, if you're listening to this and you're not that what did you say?
If we're not describing you, then we're not addressing you. Like, if we're not describing your behavior, then you don't have to feel offended. We're not talking about you. It's
Right.
like somebody could say like Irish women are all like absolute alcoholics and just like screeching banshees and a little bit racist, and I'm like, I'm not offended because that's not me. Like, it's not describing me.
Right.
So.
Lessons of the episode. Women are not property. Women can be monsters. Women are not here for you to look at.
Women are allowed to feel confident and feel some vanity because we're told from almost birth that our looks are so important. So if we're a little bit vain, then that's okay. And it's a natural way to react to a society that tells you that you should look a certain way. Because if you do look that way,
That you should care.
Yeah.
My daughter has a book called The Color Monster. And it's really precious because it's basically like this monster that has so many emotions. And so like the first page you see this little nasty monster and he's all these different colors. And it's like, color monster, what's going on with you? And then it's like, let's decode all these colors within you. And it's like, oh, this one's yellow. It's happiness. Blah, 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 blah. You feel happiness when. It's very cute.
Yeah. And like that's such a good skill because I feel like that's something that I only realized that I needed to work on. Sometimes there are feelings within me that I don't exactly know what they are, and I have to actually think about what they are. You have to teach yourself as an adult, so it's pretty cool that your daughter's learning it so young.
Yeah. Well, that's what we had to do, speaking of the trauma camp that I went to. Every single day when we got there and we started the class, we would have to say, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling? Blah, 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 whatever. And one of the things was, what emotion are you currently feeling? And we had to do that in the beginning and we had to do that at the end. And I was just like, I went into it very just like, this feels like kindergarten. What are we doing? And then it was very interesting as time went on because it was like, I couldn't even like clock my emotions that I was feeling until I had to focus on them. And I was just like, oh, I'm feeling agitated today. Why am I feeling agitated? What can I do about it? You know, just simply, and I'm a person who tends to, I don't know that I'm anxious until I start feeling it physically. All of a sudden I'll be like, why am I short of breath? Like, what's going on? And then I'm like, am I anxious? So the book is really nice in the fact that it's kind of like, these are emotions and these are how they show up.
And that's why, like, I know journaling is such like a borderline fad, and people talk about like, oh, journaling, so like hippy dippy or woo woo or whatever it is, but like it's so helpful, especially when you're overwhelmed and when there's like shit going on and you're just like, you literally need to sit down and write out what it is that's going on with you. Like, it's so helpful in that way.
Medusa would have journaled.
She would have journaled. And I feel like she would have screamed into the void when it called for it. So.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm hoping everybody who needs a scream into the void or into a big fluffy pillow gets it.
For sure. And if you need a Medusa necklace, get that Medusa necklace. It's self-care.
Yeah. Yes, that is self-care. Our laptops are like currently trying to kick us off this call, so we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yeah. I'm Emily.
And I am Niamh. Thank you for listening. And
thank you.
Fuck yeah, feminist folklore.
Fuck yeah, feminist folklore. Goodbye.
Bye.
This is Paige DeSorbo from Giggly Squad. Opill is a game changer for sexual reproductive health. They're the first over-the-counter daily birth control pill available in the U.S. Finally, the days of needing a prescription to get birth control are over. Opill is FDA approved, no prescription needed, full prescription strength, estrogen-free, and available online and at most major retailers. So when there's no prescription, no appointment, there's no hassle. No more waiting at the doctor's office to get a prescription. Opill will be easily accessed over the counter, in store, or online, and will be ready for when you need it. Opill is available online and at most major retailers. Use code GIGGLY for 25% off your first month of Opill at opill.com.
I can't tell you how often I hear, oh, I'm a little OCD. I like things neat. That's not OCD. I'm Howie Mandel, and I know this because I have OCD. Actual OCD causes relentless, unwanted thoughts. What if I did something terrible and forgot? What if I'm a bad person? Why am I thinking this terrible thing? It makes you question absolutely everything, and you'll do anything to feel better. OCD is debilitating, but it's also highly treatable with the right kind of therapy. Regular talk therapy doesn't cut it. OCD needs specialized therapy. That's why I want to tell you about NoCD. NoCD is the world's largest virtual therapy provider for OCD. Their licensed therapists provide specialized therapy virtually, and it's covered by insurance for over 155 million Americans. If you think you might be struggling with OCD, visit nocd.com to schedule a free 15-minute call and learn more. That's nocd.com.
I don't know about you, but the number one thing I look forward to when I return from traveling is a good night's sleep in my own bed. That has never been more true than it is now that I have a Sleep Number smart bed. I get so sore after traveling on planes, but after literally one night in my Sleep Number smart bed, my body feels restored, rested, and relaxed. The fact that my bed actually listens to my body and adjusts to my needs to keep me sleeping soundly all the way through the night is worth it alone. Not to mention, my husband and I never need to argue over firmness because we can each dial in our own Sleep Number setting. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? So you can choose your ideal comfort on either side. And now, for a limited time, Sleep Number smart beds start at $849. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. See store or sleepnumber.com for details.